Okay, today we are going to try to recreate Vincent van Gogh's The Starry Night. We're going to look at this image that is just a line drawing. You also hopefully just watched a video. I have 3 different media forms you can use. You can use crayons, preferably on white paper. You can use oil pastels or tempera paint on blue paper, black paper, white paper, whichever you prefer. But we are going to go ahead and get started by first, I want you to look at this line here in this sort of bush in the foreground. And let's go ahead and see if we can really cut a shape out of black paper. A lot of times my friends like to draw first and then cut on the line, but let's just have some fun with it. And maybe the first shape I sort of see is a teardrop. So I'm going to sort of cut something like this, right? It's not exact, that's totally fine. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and cut little pieces out like this. Try and do some more over here. The great thing about what we're doing is that it doesn't have to be exact. I want it to be your own unique spin, but I want to be able to recognize that you are trying to recreate your own version of the Starry Night. Alright, so we have the bush, right? Now let's see if we can do some buildings. What shapes do you see when you look at buildings? I see some squares and rectangles for the wall part of buildings. And then I see triangles for the rooftop on the top of the squares and rectangles. So let's go ahead and cut out some squares, rectangles, and triangles. And you can use whatever color paper you want. In the actual Van Gogh image, the buildings, it's kind of hard to see, but the buildings are going to be more of a white or gray. Right. We are going to, again, add our own little fun spin. I have pink paper and purple paper, and like I said, I'm just going to cut out some, what's that? Yep, a rectangle. And I will cut out, what's this, with 3 sides? Good, it's a triangle. I have some purple here. Try and cut out a square. And another triangle. Let's see. Also notice that when I cut paper, I am cutting from the edge. I'm not going out to the middle to cut a triangle. That's silly, right? So let's make sure we're cutting on the edge. So I have, how many triangles? 1, 2, 3. Awesome. And I have 1 rectangle, 1 square, and I have my bush. Now, for the sky, I think that we're just going to use the oil pastels or tempera paints. So let's go ahead and move this. Okay. My shrub or bush is going to go there. I'll have my buildings down here somewhere. But before I glue down these, let's make some sort of ground and horizon line that the buildings are sitting on. So I'm going to move this to the side for a moment. I am going to grab my oil pastels. If you don't have oil pastels, crayons are totally fine. So use one of these. I'm going to use green, but you could also use black or brown. Black, brown, or green is what I suggest for the horizon line. Now, a horizon line is a really important term in art. A horizon line tells me that everything below the horizon line is land or ground or floor, and everything above the horizon line is sky or wall or anything that is a up and down vertical surface. So horizon lines are super important. It's telling me that what I'm drawing is not floating in air, although that would be cool too. So now I have my land, and I just want you to color as a background for now, and then we can add some more texture later. And at any time, if you need to pause this video and restart it, please, by all means, feel free to do so. Great. Okay. Again, just quick. Now we are going to find my glue. Oh, there it is. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and glue down my shrub. So, when you use glue, you can do a couple of different things. You can use your finger as a glue stick. You could just use a glue stick. But really important, you don't want to use too much glue. And also, you don't want to just do that, because then the edges will flip open. So you can kind of use this part to spread, but you really want a little bit of glue all the way around the edges. And again, not too much. That actually might be too much. We'll see. I'll know it's too much if it starts squeezing out the sides. So I'm going to put it down. Carefully push it. Oh, yep, a little bit too much. But it's okay. It's not a lot. All right, great. So we have that. Now I'm going to start arranging my buildings. Okay. Again, you don't want to do this, because then watch what happens. It's going to just fold up, and I want it to look like, see how it's kind of folding up there. I want it to look like it's just one sheet of paper. It's not a couple sheets of paper glued together. There we go. Now I'm going to use what shape to make my roof? Right, triangle. Oh, another important thing about gluing. I'm never putting glue on the base paper. So the blue sheet of paper is what I consider my base paper. I'm always adding the glue to the smaller pieces that go on top. And that's because, I can show you right now. Okay, good. If I were to put the glue here, like that, okay, and then I go to put this on, see how there's too much glue? But if I just put it on here, on the shape that goes down first, or goes down on top, I'm sorry, there's not going to be too much. Okay? So, never put the glue on your base paper. It always goes on the smaller pieces that you glue down. And I'm going to actually use my finger as a glue stick, see? And then put it on here. Okay, and this is just going to be, I was going to have it be a weird, I think I'm going to leave that as just a triangle shaped building, just a fun shape. If you want, you can always go back and cut out another scrap for the building. Okay? So I'm going to let this dry for a minute, and I'm going to go wash the glue off my hands. Alright, I'm back, and the glue is not really dry, but my hands are clean. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start in the sky, and let's look at our line drawing. Up here I see a moon. What shape do you think that moon is? Right, it's sort of a crescent shape. So we're going to put a moon in our top right hand corner using yellow. So in my top right hand corner, I'm going to draw a C. Okay. Then I'm going to draw a smaller C on the inside. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color that in. And we have our crescent moon. Now let's see, what else do we see? These circles here represent stars. So I'm going to draw them. I'm going to draw a couple next to my moon. I'm going to draw some down here by my horizon line and some up towards the top. Again, since this is our own creation, It doesn't have to be identical to Vincent van Gogh's. So I'm going to just look and draw some circles with some concentric circles around it. Concentric means almost like a bullseye. There's circles inside and repeating, or circles outside repeating. Okay. A couple more down here. Okay. Now, before we get started with the texture, the line strokes that Vincent van Gogh is famous for, I want you to turn your paper so that it's vertical. So this is how we had it. And I'm just going to spin it this way. And if you look at this wind swirl, do you see anything right here? Does that make a shape that you recognize? Well, for me, that looks like an S. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and draw on my paper. I'm going to get a white, and let's see, somewhere between where I have my bush and the moon is where I'm going to draw an S shape. Make it all fun and swirly. Then, where that S is, I'm going to continue, and it looks like another big S. So, okay. And that is the basic composition of, placement of different lines and shapes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have fun, and we're going to do some of Van Gogh's textures, his textured lines. So up here around the moon, I forgot to draw a circle. So go ahead and draw a circle. When you look at Vincent van Gogh's paintings, his lines and his colors mix, but they're short and choppy strokes. So for example, if I were to draw sort of a halo, or color a halo, or depict that this star is shining, and I'm using Van Gogh's technique, I'm going to do lots of small little lines, dashed lines like this. And I can use white, and I can use yellow. So there we have it. On the moon, basically do the same thing. Short, it's almost like a broken line. Maybe like a line you would see down the middle of a street, like the yellow dashed line. Some of them can be longer, but they have to kind of go in the same movement, the same direction. Okay, so that works. And I'm going to do that for the rest of my stars, and then I will check back in for the next step. Okay, good work. So we have our stars and our moon all colored in the Vincent van Gogh way, and we're going to now work on the sky and the swirl in the sky. For that, you're going to want blue and white. I wish I had a dark blue, but this is all I could find, and this is I'm going to make it work. It's going to be awesome. So I'm going to use that same dashed dotted line technique to sort of trace around these S's that we drew. They're sideways S's now because I rotated my paper back around. Okay. Sorry that my arm's in the way. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit with the white as well. Oil pastels are really messy, but they're really beautiful when you use a white or a lighter color to sort of blend. You never want to use your fingers to blend oil pastels because they're just too greasy. Chalk pastels, however, you could use your finger or a tissue to blend and smear. Oil pastels are just too sticky. Okay, beautiful. Now, if you wanted to add anything in on the land or in the bush, you could. Again, I don't know, maybe you're going to do some of Van Gogh's techniques. His like dashed, dotted, quick strokes in the bush. That looks nice. Maybe on the buildings, like I told you before, his buildings are typically, they look more white or gray, but we added a fun color. Great. And then down here, I don't know, maybe you want to make a dashed line to depict a hill. And maybe you want to use a little bit brown to make sort of a wood or forest coloring in the background. But this looks pretty good. So this is Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, done by you, and I'm sure yours is absolutely awesome, and I can't wait to see them. If you could snap a picture and upload it to Schoology, or you can show it to me in our next Google Meet. I can't wait to see it. One thing that I do suggest is doing something like this. Hang on one second, bear with me. Let's pretend like I'm in Miss Foreman's class. So, in your picture, if you could somewhere write your name and your class code, so that it'll just be easier for me to grade and check off. Class codes for all of my new parents and friends is going to be K for kindergarten, and then every other grade will be 1, 2, or 3. And then whatever your teacher's last name, first initial is. So kindergarten Foreman, let's say first grade Martin, second grade Carol, third grade Cassidy. Basically, that's going to help me know what grade you're in and which homeroom you're in. Cool. Oh, if you want to post this on Instagram, just make sure you are using the hashtag parents, because I'm not sure that you should be getting on Instagram without parents' permission. But make sure you're using the hashtag #BestKidsArt, because your art is the best. All right, see you later. Hi, awesome Hyde Park artists. I am going to show you how to recreate the Starry Night using tempera paints. Not everyone has tempera paints at home. Totally fine. Use what you have. I did do a video on oil pastels, and I will do one on crayons. So, use what you have. I just want to see some creations that represent the Starry Night, Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. So, I already used some tempera paint to paint the ground here. And then I'm going to, I did this in my other video, I'm not sure if you watched or not, but I am going to cut out a bush for the foreground, much like this. Do you see a certain shape in this bush? It looks like fire, doesn't it? But it's actually a bush in the foreground, which means it's closest to you. I see sort of a triangle. So maybe I'm going to cut out a triangle first. Let's see. And then from there, I can make my brush. So, do you guys sort of see the triangle? Right? But I have these beautiful curvy lines that make the bush look like it's on fire. And I'm going to go ahead and cut those now. And please know that yours does not need to look exactly like mine. It does not need to look exactly like Vincent van Gogh's. It should look exactly like yours. Just kind of giving the idea that you are studying and learning about Van Gogh at the time. Okay? Great. So, here is my bush. Not at all, or not exact, somewhat, but not exactly like Vincent van Gogh's, but I like it much better this way because it's mine. And then I'm going to look down here and I'm going to look at these buildings. And what shapes do you see in the buildings? Okay, I see a triangle right here. I see some squares and rectangles for the windows. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out some squares and some rectangles. You can use white paper, or if you want to be fun and silly and unique, original, you can use different colored papers. I'm just cutting like scraps off here. So I will cut what shape is this orange one? Great. A rectangle. I will cut a orange circle. Just kidding. It's not a circle. It's a triangle. I was trying to trick you. And then I will do a white triangle. A white square. A pink rectangle and a pink triangle. Great. So I am going to start gluing these down. And when I'm using my glue to glue down pieces on my base paper is this blue paper right here. I am not going to put the glue on the blue paper because it creates a mess. It's just not effective. I'm going to instead put the glue on these smaller sheets of paper. And I'll put a little building here. And I like how the orange pops on the green. I'll put a little triangle roof. Oh, that's a cute little building. Do another one. Sort of wish that I would have made a triangle a little different, but that's right. It's going to be great. It's a little messy, but that's okay. You can also use a glue stick if you prefer. I'm using this cute little glue bottle because it's what the district provided. So that's just what I'm using. And then my bush. So I'm going to turn my bush over. Try and make sure that I get a little bit of glue on all of the edges, but not too much glue. Perfect. Great. Now, the fun begins with the painting. But I just painted a second ago the green background, so I need to go get water and clean my brush, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I wanted to point out a couple things. So, if you are messy like I am, I suggest using a placemat when you paint. I don't have a placemat, and you can see that I have paint on the table. I'm not sure how parents are going to feel about that at home, so I strongly suggest a placemat, which can just be a scrap sheet of paper, it can be newspaper, it can be a paper bag from the grocery store. And then you're going to want some water, and use whatever container your adult says you can use. This is just an old bowl, so that's my water. And you're going to want some sort of towel to clean your brush in the water, and then sort of dab it dry so it's not, dab it dry so it's not too wet on your paper. So first thing I'm going to do, and I apologize for, I have so many things going on here that some of the stuff is not going to be in the screen, like my bowl of water is here. Okay, when we look at the image of the Starry Night, obviously it's called Starry Night because it is a night sky with stars in it. These circles right here are the stars. Here is the moon. So I'm going to start with the moon. And the moon to me looks like it's part of a circle, or a better definition would be a crescent moon. So I'm going to use some yellow paint, and in the top right hand corner of my recreation, my Starry Night, I'm going to make a C. Depending on the size of your brush, you might just need to make one C. That's it. Then I'm going to start with some stars, and I'm probably just going to do a dot like this. okay, for my stars to start. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can watch or paint along with your stars. Hopefully you are stopping the video when and where you need. You can restart it, rewind, all of that. And remember, I've said this before, but I want to reiterate that yours does not need to look exactly like Vincent van Gogh's. I want it to remind me or remind the viewer of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, but I also want it to have your own unique flavor, if you will. Okay, so now I'm going to use a little bit of, you can see I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to dab it dry. And dabbing means it's just like I'm barely touching. I'm not like, okay? So, cleaning my brush. I'm going to draw white circles, or not draw, paint white circles around everything that I just, so around the crescent moon, around the stars. And I like to, it creates Vincent van Gogh's famous, recognizable strokes if you do like a C and then a backwards C to create your circle. And I'll explain that more a little bit later. Okay, so we have the stars, we have the moon. Now, this swirl in his Starry Night it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I love it. So I'm going to show you how to draw the swirl. And the first thing you're going, or paint, keep saying draw. Okay. The first thing you're going to do is turn your paper sideways. Okay. And when I do that, this swirl here reminds me of an S. And this swirl here reminds me of an S. So I'm going to move that to the side. Okay. And I'm going to use white. And let's see, the top of my smaller S is closer to the bush, but still in between the moon and the bush. So I'm going to start it right here. And I'm going to make an S. Great. Then the bottom of the bigger S kind of starts right here. So I'm going to make that. Cool. Now, the fun part with, so Vincent van Gogh's strokes in his paintings are very sort of choppy. They remind me of like a dotted line. His colors aren't super blended, but like I said, more choppy. So let's go ahead and do that. I love doing it so much. Let's start with a little bit of yellow around the moon, and you're going to dash up, dash up, dash up. But you want to keep going in that circle movement, that white line that we did. I'm going to trace it. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white to make little broken lines all the way around the moon and this circle here. Great, perfect. Now I'm going to do the same thing around the stars with a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. And I'm not cleaning my brush in between because I'm using them interchangeably. I'm using the white and the yellow. The main thing is that I'm not going like that because that's too blended. What you want is the paint up, paint up, sort of like a broken line or the center line of a street, the dotted yellow line. Okay. I'm going to do this on all of the stars, and then I'm going to move on to the swirl. That was too. Okay. Also, now add a little bit more up here, just because. Now, I'm going to do the swirl. For the swirl, I do want to get the yellow off my brush, so I'm going to clean it in the water. If I go like this gently, you can still see the yellow water drip off, which means I need to keep a little bit more. Okay. and I'm going to dab it dry on my napkin or a rag, whatever you have. And I'm going to now use, let's see, white, a dark blue, and a lighter blue to create those choppy strokes or broken lines around the swirl. You can turn your paper this way if you want, or you can leave it like this, but you're going to essentially trace those white lines with a dotted or broken line. And it's okay that if the white paint is still wet, hopefully it is, and if there's a little bit of blending in the short strokes. Okay, now I'm going to use my lighter blue. Again, I don't need to clean my brush in between because it's okay if these colors blend. And actually, I made this lighter blue here just by mixing my dark blue and my white, so it's all cool. Okay, you could leave it like this. This is gorgeous. Or you could add some more choppy Van Gogh style strokes by just continuing the pattern around all of these objects. And then when you get, so I'm going around the circles. When two circles collide, because you're getting further and further out, pick one circle or combine them. It's totally fine. Just go with it. And then if you want to, on the grass or the buildings, and also do some of Van Gogh's strokes. You can also do it on your bush. So I think this is really beautiful, but I'm going to keep going in case people are curious. So I'm going to clean my brush. And I'm going to start adding some little green strokes here. Okay. And I didn't get any brown paint, but I will add a little bit of white on my buildings. This one already. There we go. I'll go ahead and just do some more choppy strokes. But if I had brown paint, I might put some brown in my hills. And it might be nice to have like dark and light green to do this with. But I just have this one for now. Gorgeous. I can't wait to see yours. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to say, ooh, that looks just like Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, but with so-and-so's twist. I can definitely tell whose artwork that is. But when you do, please get a white sheet of paper after this has dried. Write your first name, last name on the paper and your class code and sort of set it down somewhere on the corner of your paper. Take a picture, upload that picture to Schoology upload that picture to Schoology. You can also show this to me in our bi-weekly Google Meet. And if your parent or someone wants to post it on Instagram, use the hashtag BestKidsArt. And I'm so excited to see all of your creations. Hi guys, welcome back. I am going to now show you how to use white paper and crayons to make a recreation of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. Not everyone has all the materials, so this is my third Vincent van Gogh Starry Night recreation. This time I'm using white paper and crayons, but I also did oil pastels and tempera paints. use whatever you have. Be creative. If you want to mix all of them together, that's fine. Just make sure you have your parents' permission, because most of the things that I do are messy. I also suggest using a placemat for all of your artwork. I don't have a placemat here, and I have a mess. But I am responsible, and I'm going to clean up my mess, and it's an art studio. When I'm at home with my kids, we do not have this kind of mess. I make sure that we put a placemat down. You can use something like an old newspaper, scraps of paper, even a brown paper bag from the grocery store. You can use old wrapping paper, just something to protect the surface of whatever table or desktop you're using at home. So let's look at the Vincent van Gogh Starry Night. It is a very famous painting, and it's one of my favorites. For those of you who have been in my art studio at school, you will recognize this, as it has been painted on my back wall since 2013. I love looking at it every day. So first thing we're going to do is, I always like to start with this bush in the foreground and then move on to the moon. That's my, because I've obviously drawn this a lot, that's my step, that's how I progress, so that's how I'm going to do it. But when we look at this bush here, it's almost like a triangle, but with wavy or curvy lines. So that's what I'm going to do first. I have my paper. They're both horizontal, which means they're wide side to side, because that's how the painting is. So horizontal is wide side to side, and then vertical, if I ever ask you to do your paper vertical, it's going to be tall, because it's vertical, tall, okay? There's also portrait and landscape. Landscape is this way, because this is a beautiful landscape. Landscape is a picture done outside. And then portrait is vertical, because people are tall. So anyways, horizontal or landscape is how I'm going to start. And in the bottom left is where I start my cypress bush. Okay, so, and if you want to draw really, really lightly, that would be okay. So like I said, it was almost like a triangle. I did that really, really lightly. And then I'm going to make the curved lines. Now, your curved lines do not need to be exactly like Van Gogh's. In fact, I don't want them to be exactly like his. I want them to be like yours. It also looks kind of like a flame, right? So, but that's for another time. So I have my cypress in the bottom left. Now I'm going to do my crescent moon in the top right. And to draw that, I like to draw a C, and then draw a smaller C in the middle, and boom, there it is. Now I'm going to draw my horizon line. The horizon line tells me that everything below the horizon line is land, and everything above it is going to be the sky. So my horizon line, though, is behind my bush. So this gets a little tricky, but I'm going to start over on my left side, draw a line over, and as soon as I bump into that bush, I'm going to stop, jump over the bush, and continue my horizon line all the way to the edge. Cool? Looks like there might be a little bit of a horizon line right there if you want to. There. Now, let's see. I'm going to do some stars. So, you see these stars here? They're basically circles with circles around them, almost like a bullseye. I'm going to go ahead and just do the stars, though. And again, your stars do not need to be exactly where Van Gogh has his stars. But, great. Now I'm going to, sorry if I'm going too fast, but you can stop there and pause, rewind, whenever. I'm going to turn my paper this way, and look at these swirl lines. To me, this looks like an S, and this looks like a longer, larger S. That's how I'm going to draw the swirly, starry, windy night. I'm going to sort of start somewhere between the moon and the cypress, but a little bit closer to the cypress for my smaller swirl S. And then my longer swirl S, the bottom of my S starts at the top of my other one. And again, when I get to that cypress, don't run over the cypress, jump over it, and finish. There. Now you go ahead, and this is a great base to start now with the Van Gogh stuff. like the Van Gogh strokes and colors. Down here, he has sort of a city. If you want to draw some buildings, you want to leave it plain, that's fine, but I am going to draw a couple buildings. So I'm going to draw what shape is that? Good, a rectangle. And so this is a tall building. What should my roof shape be? Okay, so I'm going to draw a triangle. And then I'm going to draw just another little building, maybe one over here. Great. Cool. Now I'm going to get some colors going. I'm going to use yellow, and I'm going to start working on the moon and the stars by drawing two or three circles actually, around each. Sort of like a bullseye. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to color in my stars and my moon. Great. And I'm going to do what's called a broken line, or Van Gogh's strokes, with yellow and blue around those bullseye circles that I just drew. So it's a broken line, or a dash. Some people call it a dash, and some people call it a broken line. Okay, and then I'm also going to do it with yellow. Okay, I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'll check back in. All right, great job. Now we're going to do the dashed strokes along the windy swirl line. And for that, I recommend using as many different blues as you can find. I might even use a little bit of this gray. But you're going to do the same thing. You're going to sort of trace around that swirl line with a dashed or broken line. You're going to do that with all of the blues you can find. Great, perfect. Now I'm going to work on the bush here, which is a cypress bush. You can use greens and or browns. So I'm going to do the Van Gogh stroke, sort of going and keeping in line with moving up towards the point here, or sort of mimicking the outside line. Oh boy. I don't think I want to actually add the brown. I changed my mind. Just going to do the green. Okay, and then for the buildings, you can color the buildings whatever color you want. Van Gogh typically had his sort of a gray, so I might do a little bit of gray and a little bit of blue. A little bit of brown on this one. Okay, now for the grass, I'm going to use mostly brown, but also a little bit of green. And I'm going to pretend like there's a hill right here in the corner, just because. Okay, and then follow the horizon line underneath. Now you can keep adding these strokes. The more strokes you add, the more it'll look like Van Gogh's. However, I'm going to leave it like this, and this could totally be considered done. However, if you have watercolors at home, watercolor paints, this could be fun to do a crayon resist. So I'm going to leave it how it is for this, but after I'm done recording, I'm going to paint over it with my watercolor paints, and I will show you an image or a final picture of it. If this is the one that you chose to do, the crayon on paper, please make sure you take a photo and you either upload that photo to Schoology or you show me the actual finished project in our bi-weekly Google Meets. Also, make sure that you use some sort of little piece of paper that has your first name and last name written on it, and your class code, and just sort of place it on the corner of your image somewhere before you take the picture so I know whose it is. And see you later.